Hello.
On behalf of this On behalf of the Sustainability Reporting Standards Board of ICAI, I, Jyoti Singh, extends a warm welcome to all of you for the 42nd session of our webinar series, Demystifying Sustainability Catalyzing Growth. Today's session is centered around a critical theme, extended producer responsibility. We are honored to have with us CA Preeti Paras Savlaji, Chairperson SRSB. Special addressee CA Abhay Chachad sir will join us after a few minutes. Our esteemed speaker, CA Anushri Gupta ji, and our moderator for today, CA Chandni Vijay Kona ji, and CA Aarti Pai ji. Let us now begin. I would like to invite Preeti ma'am to please give us a welcome speech. Then we will for Abhay sir. He'll also join us. Ma'am, please.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome all of you to this 42nd webinar series of Sustainability Reporting Standard Board. And by the time Aarti gives the introduction, I will speak then. Aarti.
Hi, ma'am. I would first like to introduce CA Preeti Savla, ma'am. She's a Central Council member and holds key roles as the chairperson of Sustainability Reporting Standards Board as well as Women and Young Members Excellence Committee. She's also the vice chairperson of the Corporate Laws and Governance Committee, as also the group on enabling lifestyle for environment. She's also on the board of discipline and other committees. Internationally, she represents India on the IFRS Foundation ISSB Sustainability Standards Advisory Forum and has chaired the SAFA Sustainability Board. In the corporate world, she serves as a public interest director at NSE Clearing and is an independent director as well as an audit committee chair for several leading companies. Her contributions extend to social impact initiatives as a director at the Institute of Social Auditors of India and also as a governing council member of the Social Stock Exchange at BSE. A noted speaker and mentor, she has been instrumental in launching several noteworthy key initiatives in the Sustainability Board and Women's Committee of ICAI. Ma'am, if you would like to say a few words.
Actually, my introduction was not required, Aarti, to give. It was like Anushri, I thought to give. Anyways, friends, this is like 42nd series of our webinar, and the office is really putting a lot of efforts for organizing these webinars. And on an average, 500 members are always there for this. Even I'm happy to see that for even this very upcoming and new area, 500 members are joining. And all these videos, all these webinars we are keeping online in our ICI TV, and we'll share the link also. Friends, the Spark series, when he started this board, we thought, okay, let us have some series, and that is what we have, like, Spark. What is sustainable practices, progressive actions, aligned resources, resilient growth, and knowledge expansion. And with this theme of Spark, we have initiated this webinar series to so that our members gain benefit out of it. We are continuously in touch with the SEBI exchanges. Today also I came to know, and talking with National Stock Exchange was floated email for to top for 500 listed companies for that BRSR core for the year 25-26 to complete within certain time limit. However, they have mentioned that reasonable assurance is mandatory. However, as per SEBI notification, it can be whether reasonable or limited assurance for BRSR core, which that circular mentions. So let us see what then again the exchange is coming out. They have also shared um, the XBRL submission and all. So let's see. Again, coming to today's topic, friends, is extended producers' responsibility and the importance, Anushri, like, this is very, very critical area and very, these small areas are also becoming very important and large. The certification for this is required, and it is a huge concern for making the companies. So when we were reviewing the awards criterias and the so that performance and disclosure, what is actually performance of the companies in the sustainability and what their disclosure. So both the things are very important, because the performance only will give the disclosure, but perform have so that is friends, very important. With these words, I invite Anushri.
Um, Anushri, I'll just take a minute to give an introduction for you.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, okay. Everyone, Anushri is a practicing chartered accountant and a partner at MS Suraj Garg and Associates with over a decade of experience in GST, service tax, direct taxation, as well as statutory and tax audit. She is an identified GST faculty with ICAI's Indirect Tax Committee and a certified ESG professional with a strong expertise in BRSR reporting in India. She supports businesses in ESG implementation and also serves as a sustainability expert on the CII Haryana Help Desk. Anushri is a frequent speaker at ICI and other professional forums and was recently a panelist at the World Forum of Accountants in Delhi. She has also contributed articles to leading professional platforms such as Taxman and professional journals. With that, I'll welcome Anushri. You can take it forward.
Thank you, ma'am, for the kind introduction. So, starting with today's topic, EPR, that is Extended Producer Responsibility. I'm just going to share the screen and then we can confirm it if it is visible to all. So, I hope it is visible and my video is visible too. Okay, thank you. So, in this series of webinars for ESG, that is an evolving field in for chartered accountants, and basically it is a multidisciplinary field now. So one of the good topics, one of the other evolving area within ESG practice is EPR, Extended Producer Responsibility, and we are going to discuss the same today. So, what is EPR basically? If you look at this diagram of circular economy, so we all know that every process, every manufacturing process starts from raw material, procurement of raw material, and then it is processed, designed, a design is built, then production and manufacturing processes are taken up. Then, when the product is built, distribution processes are there, selling and distribution. Once the product is sold, the consumption comes into play. After the consumption, we do not think beyond consumption in the actual scenario, but with ESG guidelines coming into place, with the concept of ESG, with the thought of being sustainable in the near future, we go beyond consumption with the concept of EPR. So the role of EPR starts after consumption. So what do we do after consuming a product? Say simply a bottle of it's a bottle of maybe a cold drink, a beverage, a simple beverage. We just throw away the beverage bottle after consuming it. But with this concept of EPR, we won't throw away the bottle. Instead, we will make whole efforts to recycle the same, send it to collection centers, and make it a part of circular economy. How do we do that? After the consumption, we analyze whether it is possible to repair or reuse the product. We send it to collection centers. Then from the collection centers, it is sent for recycling. And after recycling, if any residual waste is left, that is sent to landfills. So instead of sending the waste to landfills at this point, that is after this point of consumption, now with the concept of EPR, we will be sending the waste to landfills where it is just dumped and not taken care of at this point. So we will take into account all this exercise of repairing, reusing, collection, recycling before ending up with the products in the landfills now with the concept of EPR. So basically, EPR is an extended producer responsibility. The producer is not only responsible for manufacturing, distributing the product now, but the producer has also been made responsible for the recollection of the product, recollection of the consumed product, its recycling, and making sure that it becomes a part of circular economy again rather than going to the landfills. So with this brief idea of EPR, we will now discuss the topic in detail. Uh, Basically, extended producer responsibility (EPR) is an environmental policy which assigns waste responsibility to producers. So it says producers are now not only responsible for producing the product, but they also have a responsibility to manage the waste generated out of their production. Who all are made responsible under EPR? So the producers, the importers, the brand owners of a product are made responsible for EPR. Now in EPR, there are many categories for which the guidelines have come up, for which the rules have come up. Plastic was the first for which EPR was introduced in 2016 by way of Plastic Waste Management Rules 2016. The rules, there have been amendments undertaken for these rules from time to time, and the latest amendment rules were published in 2025. So plastic is one of the oldest category for which EPR regulations came in. After plastic, a lot of other categories like tires, battery waste, e-waste, all these have come up, and we will discuss them in the coming slides. So what happens? The producers, importers, and brand owners of plastic waste, of plastic, who are made responsible for EPR regulations, what do they have to do? They have to be responsible now for the collection, recycling, reuse, and use of recycled content. So they don't have to only collect the used plastic, but they also have to make sure that they send it for recycling, or they reuse it itself in their manufacturing processes, or the plastic which has been recycled, the government has made targets for ensuring that some minimum percentage of recycled plastic is used in making the new plastic. So this is how regulations are laying a burden to protect our environment on the producers of plastic. How does all this happen? So on the compliance part, there you have to take mandatory registration on the CPCB portal, the Central Pollution Control Board portal, and EPR compliances, annual EPR compliances have to be there, return filing have to be there, that you have to take care of. Why is this necessary? Because it encourages sustainable packaging and it supports circular economy. Then it is one of the major things for regulatory compliance and improving ESG performance. So extended producer responsibility is an idea to put back all the plastic, all the e-waste, all the battery waste that is there in the economy, to prevent it from going into the landfills directly, but before going to the landfills, they are recycled, reused, or collected and put into the circular economy back again, so that less and less of waste ends up in landfills. Going further, this is the whole cycle of EPR. So producers and brand owners, they manufacture their products and then they pack them in plastic. So some products can be made of plastic itself, like the plastic bottles, plastic containers, and some products can be of the type that they themselves are not plastic, but their packaging is plastic. Then the retailers, they sell the products to consumers. Consumers buy the goods and then they discard the plastic packaging. So this plastic packaging that the consumers are discarding till now, that has to be taken care of now, and it should not go to the dumps, it should not go to the landfills. It has to be this which ended in landfills in oceans, this should now be recycled by way of EPR regulations, and producers and brand owners are responsible for that. So, how did this concept of EPR originate? It began in Western countries, especially in Europe, with the packaging waste. They started with EPR regulations on the packaging waste, all the plastic packaging that was there for bottles, sachets, pouches, and all these things. Then they slowly expanded it to e waste, batteries, and vehicles. In 2011, the concept, the idea began in India also, and it was on the white papers, and it was discussed, and slowly and gradually the rules were built and drafted, and finally in 2016, first time the plastic waste management rules came into operation, with which the EPR responsibilities for plastic waste started. After that, the digital portals like the compliance, registration, return filing, certificate management. We will discuss what are EPR certificates in the coming slides. So the Central Pollution Control Board portal is there for all the EPR exercise that has to be done. And on the other hand, all the state pollution control boards are also now maintaining their website. So in some categories of waste, registration is required on both central and state portal. In some categories of waste, it is only required on the central portal. Now, today, everything is typically data driven and everything is linked to the market. Like we have stock exchanges, we have a whole market for the EPR credit certificates, which we will discuss. So starting with the first category of EPR that came up with the EPR and plastic waste. What was the need for EPR for plastic waste? Municipalities were basically overburdened with the rising plastic waste. We all are aware that plastic is a big problem from the angle of environment. We all know that there is a lot of hype, there is a lot of talk on banning the plastics. But have you ever thought, is banning plastics a solution? If we take a simple example, moving from plastic straws to paper straws, is that a solution? Has anybody gone behind the science of plastic straws, the science of paper straws? So basically, I would say the single-use plastics should be banned and not each and every kind of plastic, because we have to look at the cost also. We have to look at the circular economy also. At this point, all the viewers that are there, all the participants are there. I would want to do a quick visualization exercise with you all. Just close your eyes and imagine the kind of plastic waste we are generating. I will start with a small example. I would request all of you to close your eyes and visualize this thing. So just imagine that we all are using plastic toothbrush. I'm sure there are not many people in this webinar who are participants and they are conscious enough to use wooden toothbrush or bamboo toothbrush or non-plastic toothbrush. Majorly, all of us are using plastic toothbrush. So we start with one thing in the morning, which is made of plastic. We replace, if you look at one individual, we replace the toothbrush every 2-3 months. So one toothbrush multiplied by, if I say 4 toothbrushes in a year, so it comes to 4 toothbrush per individual per year. Now, if I multiply that number by, say, the number of participants attending this webinar, 4 into 500, that comes to 2000. So 2000 plastic toothbrushes a year by only the participants of this webinar. Now these 5,000 toothbrushes, if you can, imagine the same going to landfills and you multiply that by the whole population. So look at the kind of plastic waste that we are generating and that is ending up in landfills. So all this plastic needs to be reduced, and EPR and all the upcoming laws on environmental or social or governance aspect that they are coming with a with a conscious sense now, with some science behind it. Banning plastics is not the solution, but banning single use plastics is the solution. Because if we ban all kinds of plastic, there are now biodegradable plastics also in the market. There are plastics which can be recycled. So if we are using, say, a bamboo toothbrush, or if we are using a wooden toothbrush instead of the plastic toothbrush, we will end up cutting trees for that. So we have to look at the science behind it, that whether it is actually helping the environment, the alternatives that we are switching to, or not. So single use plastic should be banned and not all kinds of plastic. So this was just a visualization exercise to imagine the need for regulations for handling all kinds of waste. One of the major one out of which is the plastic waste. So, since there was no producer responsibility till now EPR regulations have placed a responsibility on the producers. They are focusing the producers because producers are the ones who introduce some kind of plastic to the market. Producers, importers of plastic, and brand owners of a product who use plastic for any kind of packaging or in any other form. So now they have been made accountable to make the plastic a part of the circular economy. Then high environmental leakage. So all the uncollected plastic was going to the landfills, informal and unsafe recycling. All the recycling practices which were there, they were also not very organized and they were all unregulated. They were posing a lot of risk to the health and safety of individuals, the waste pickers, the people who work in the recycling organizations or NGOs. So they all have been regulated and are trying to be regulated by the mechanism of EPR now. Non-recyclable packaging dominance was there. Earlier, nobody used to care about using single-use plastic or multi-layered plastic or multiple-use plastic. Now, with these regulations in place, everyone will be conscious of using only the plastic which is not single-use. Then there was no traceability of data earlier in absence of the EPR regulations because the plastic flows were invisible, and there was a lot of greenwashing. People used to say by way of CSR activities, they used to put pictures on their website, show that we have carried this awareness program, that awareness program, but in actual there was no curb of plastic in the real sense. Now all the plastic that is being introduced in the market, like the currency that is introduced by banks into the market, by the RBI into the market, every plastic that is introduced into the market is being tracked, registered, and uh, we have a track on that all the plastic introduced into the market, out of that, how much is going back into the circular economy and how much is going to the landfills. Now, we have already discussed producers of plastic packaging who are into manufacture, import of carry bags or multi-layered packaging or plastic sheets, all these products, the importers of plastic packaging or products with plastic, and the brand owners, they are the ones who are responsible to get registered under EPR, plastic waste management rules. And in brand owners, the MSMEs, they are exempt. The micro and small ones are exempt. For producers and importers, there's no exemption. For brand owners, the micro and small ones are exempt. Plastic waste processors. So all the recyclers and entities engaged in using plastic waste for some other purpose, either they convert it into energy or they convert it into some form of recyclable plastic or they convert it into oil or they compost it. All these kinds of waste processors, they are required to get registered. The plastic raw material manufacturers and importers have to get registered. A lot of people are manufacturing plastic resins and granules nowadays, so they all have to get registered. Manufacturers of compostable and biodegradable plastic products, they all have to get registered now. So, going into EPR and the rules further, what all categories of plastic have been covered for registration? They have categorized all kinds of plastic into 4 categories. First is rigid plastics, which are the hard plastics. If we look at the water bottles or the soda bottles that we have, the shampoo containers, they're all hard plastic bottles, these plastic bottles. Then category 2 are the flexible plastic, which are the pouches. They are in the LDPE or PP films, they in the form of carry bags, detergent pouches, and all. They are common in FMCG industry and retail packaging. So these are the 2 categories: rigid plastic, flexible plastic, and then the other categories are multi-layer plastic, where the not the whole outer layer is plastic, but they are combined with a plastic layer. So like aluminium, paper, like we have Tetra packs of milk. So they have a paper layer of paper inside and then a layer of plastic. Similarly, there are compostable plastics which have and on the packaging it is written 100% compostable bags. So even these categories have to be registered. Now, this is what this diagram depicts the whole flow of EPR plastic. What we are doing, we are transforming the plastic waste into some value. We have EPR regulations in place by which 100% collection of plastic has been mandated by 2023 and 24. And the regulations have been drafted in such a way that 80% of the plastic will be recycled by 2027-28. So all the rigid plastic, flexible plastic, multi-layer sachet, compostable bags, they all are recycled and they become a part of the circular economy. And that recycled plastic is sold to the manufacturers, to the producers again, so that they can use the same in their manufacturing operations instead of using new plastic altogether. And in case the EPR targets which are set by the laws are not attained, then there is a trading for that. And this particular diagram depicts the trading. So we'll learn about EPR certificates and the targets. So apart from the recycling obligations and reusing and collection centers, what are the how have the obligations been framed? What are the obligations that are put actually? So the percentage of EPR target, the targets are the ones which have been set by the pollution control boards themselves, that this particular industries can generate up to this much of waste, and they have to report the waste generated, and they have to try that the target set by the pollution control boards is achieved. Otherwise there are penalties. So from the EP, or based on the EPR targets that have been given to the industries, we have some recycling obligations put in place. So what does this say? For the category 1 plastic, rigid plastics that we discussed, in 2024-2025, there was an obligation to recycle at least 50% of the plastic introduced into the market. This is a percentage of basically the EPR targets that have been set. So 50% of the EPR targets have to be recycled and put back into the economy. 50% of the plastic waste that has been generated. Now this is gradually increasing in a phased manner, and by 27-28, 80% of the plastic has to be recycled. Similarly, across category 2 and 3, the percentages starts from 30% and it increases up to 60% in the future years. Then there is the obligation to use that recycled plastic in the plastic packaging. So whatever plastic that is recycled, out of that, a certain percentage, a minimum certain percentage of plastic, recycled plastic, has to be used in the new plastic packaging that is being taken every day. So again, there are percentages, there are set criterias for that. So for category 1 plastic, in 2025-26, 30% of recycled plastic has to be used. If you are, say, undertaking a new plastic packaging. So in that, at least 30% of the content should be out of the recycled plastic. This is what it means. And this 30% gradually increases to 60%, and so on for categories 2 and 3. So we have two kinds of obligations that we have seen. There is a recycling obligation that we have to recycle at least this much of waste. And then we have the second obligation to use a minimum percentage of recycled waste in the future manufacturing operations. So these are the two kinds of obligations primarily casted on the producers by the plastic waste management rules. And this is how the plastic is being recycled, and by using minimum percentage of recycled plastic in new operations, the plastic is going back into the circular economy. Now, what is the compliance procedure for this? How to get that EPR registration? EPR registration, you will apply for that on the CPCB online portal. What all do you have to do? You have to submit your business details, you have to define your product category, and you have to give your estimated waste generation. After we submit these details, these details are monitored, they are analyzed, and then they are approved by the authorities. Then every producer, according to their category, they have to implement their waste management plans as laid down in the rules, because for every category there is a different waste management plan. Regular monitoring and audits have to be done to ensure compliance with every kind of regulation. There are pros and cons of it, and even in EPR there have been instances which lead to fake certificates, fake EPR certificates being generated, and a lot of scams, a lot of EPR credit certificate scams have also come up, because of which the regulations are being made stringent day by day, and EPR audits are being conducted more frequently now. We'll talk about EPR audits and the role of chartered accountants in these areas in the coming slides. So EPR compliance plan submission. What is your whole plan? How will you comply with the EPR targets that have been given to you by the CPCB? The details of that have to be provided for the whole year. And then there are reports to be submitted, the annual waste collection and recycling reports. How much waste did you collect, and how much waste did you recycle, and out of the recycled waste, how much did you use back again? All these figures are to be reported to the CPCB portal. If you don't comply with these regulations, what will happen? So there are environmental compensation and penalties that have been laid down again in the plastic waste management rules, and they can be retrospective and they can be increased also with prolonged non-compliance. So we need to take care of those. What is the non-compliance? Basically, the recycling obligations that we talked about, and the use of that recycled content in the new operations. These are the major obligations put on the producers of plastic waste now. Your registration can be cancelled, and after cancelling your registration, you are not allowed to carry on your business operations. It is illegal business if you carry out the business operations after cancellation of your registration. ESG and sustainability impact. Now there are ESG scores, third-party ratings like EcoVadis scores are there in your BRSR core. So I would halt here for a second and tell you, outside EPR, BRSR core is one such report which is mandatory for the top 1,000 listed companies in India. BRSR is Business Responsibility and Sustainability Report. This report is now mandatory for the top 1,000 listed companies in India by market capitalization, and they have to disclose a lot of things related to environmental, social, and governance compliance in this BRSR report. Now, BRSR core is a subset of the BRSR where there are 9 particular attributes like the water footprint, the energy footprint, the carbon footprint, and the main ones which are important in the Indian scenario. So in the BRSR core, you have to report certain things regarding EPR. There are questions on your compliance levels with the EPR regulations. So if you don't comply with EPR regulations, you will not be able to report properly in the BRSR core. And based on this BRSR core itself, all the ratings are given to you, all the ESG scores are given to you. If the scores fall down, you will hurt your investors and your customers. And investors are very important for the listed companies. We all know that they are a part of their ecosystem. And so the compliance is now very necessary for them. Market access restrictions, there can be a ban on the sale of products, there can be a restriction if the EPR norms are not complied with. So with one category, plastic, that we have covered, I would now like to discuss the role of chartered accountants, we fellow professionals in EPR. And plastic is just one category that we have discussed. We'll discuss the other categories. But with this background, with the idea that we have now for what is EPR and how EPR is there for the plastic category, we will discuss the role of chartered accountants. So that this creates, you all become aware, and with this, you are able to connect with the coming slides for the other categories also. EPR applicability and compliance. So first of all, the exercise that we can do, where the chartered accountants come into picture, is identification itself. So in other laws also, like GST, like in GST also, we need to figure out that whether GST, registering a business under GST, is required or not. So similarly here, we have to identify for businesses that whether they fall under the EPR obligations or not, whether EPR applies to them in the plastic category or e-waste category or battery or tire or oil. So these all categories are there for EPR till now, and they are increasing from year to year. For example, next year, EPR for non-ferrous metals is going to come up, in which metals like copper, nickel, zinc are going to be covered. So these categories will go on increasing now in the coming future. So we have to, first of all, identify that whether EPR applies, and then we have to apply, and then we have to identify the correct category. And within that category also, for example, you've discussed for plastic, within that category also we have to decide the subcategories, the rigid plastic, or it is flexible plastic, or biodegradable plastic, and so on. So this all is a exercise, like we have classification rules in customs, we have classification for HSN and SAC in GST. So this all classification exercises there. Then we have to interpret the EPR targets according to the rules, the plastic waste management rules, and we have to go for the registration and annual filings. After we are done with the registration and filings, we have to account for whether the waste targets that were there, they have been met, how much is the shortfall. If there is a shortfall, then there is a mechanism that we can purchase credits for the shortfall. Now those credits can be used, they can be purchased, and they can be carried forward. So the whole reconciliation exercise for these EPR credits, that also there is a good scope for us professionals in this area. It is I can relate it to the GST reconciliation exercise that we do. Similar is the EPR credits exercise. Then cost of compliance and shortfall risks that we have discussed. Another area is audit assurance and reporting. So because of the scams that are there, because of the fake EPR credits that are generated, CPCB and SPCBs, the state pollution control boards and the central pollution control boards, have started carrying out audits very frequently, that whether the EPR registration is in good faith or not, whether the plastic that is being recycled and being purchased from the plastic recyclers, that is there or not, are there fake agencies, are there fake businesses, because for the recycled plastic only the credits are generated. So what do people do? They say that the plastic is being recycled. They show that the plastic is being recycled. However, in actual, they do not have that setup, or they do not have their establishment where the plastic is being recycled and the fake credits are generated. It is similar to fake credits of fake input tax credit in the GST law. So, conducting internal EPR audits for the organizations, that is another area for us. Validating EPR data for ESG, BRSR, and sustainability reports. So, all the EPR data, all the questions that are there in the BRSR report for EPR, whether they have been answered properly, whether the answers in that BRSR report for EPR are correct or not, they are accurate or not, whether correct figures have been presented or not, that is also our responsibility. What other opportunities are there? We can act as an EPR consultant and advisor. So we can basically in the FMCG industries, the electronics industry, automotive industry, battery companies, all these they are now bound by these EPR regulations, and they need an EPR consultant or advisor, either in-house or outsourced, or like they have their CAs for their income tax and GST, they would now need EPR consultants. EPR audit and assurance specialist. So then, when verification is carried out by the pollution control boards, assisting with those verifications, there again we come into picture. Corporate EPR and ESG roles. There are now positions in all the companies and organizations where EPR is applicable for an EPR compliance head. In-house EPR compliance heads are being employed now. Then ESG finance, regulatory reporting, and risk roles are there. So the credit management exercise that I talked about, EPR credit market advisory. So EPR credit procurement, if there is a shortfall, the procuring the EPR credit, and that too at a good price, because just like the stock exchange market that we have, there's a whole EPR credit market, and getting the EPR credits at a good price is also one of the exercise. Then long-term contracts with recyclers and PROs, the plastic recycling organizations. So all these, the framing of contracts, framing of SOPs, all these also fall into our role. Now, with these opportunities in mind, with the idea in mind that how we CAs can play a role in the EPR regulation, in the EPR ecosystem, I will now start with the other categories of EPR so that we get a holistic overview of all the mm, areas covered under EPR. Another major category under the EPR regulations is EPR for battery waste. So the for environmentally safe battery waste management, we have the battery waste management rules, which came up in 2022. And producers are again responsible for collection of all waste batteries by means of these rules. In case of batteries, 100% recycling and refurbishment is required. So in the recent past, we have, there is a growth of battery refurbisher entities coming up in the market. A lot of organizations with the work of battery refurbishment have, started their operations in the recent past. So along with the regulations comes a business opportunity, comes a opportunity for the consultant, comes an opportunity for the professionals like us. Landfilling and incineration is completely prohibited for battery now, and compliance via self-management or authorized third parties is required. So again, when we talk about that landfilling and incineration is prohibited in case of batteries, I would again give you an example here. Like we took the example of plastic straws and paper straws. Here also, we're all thinking that EVs, the electronic vehicles, and the solar plants that are there, they are renewable sources of energy and they are renewable alternatives. But The batteries that they are using, what about them? The battery, because of them, the batteries, the number of batteries produced are increasing, and nobody looks at the backside of battery disposal. The amount of battery discarded batteries that are ending up in landfills because of the increase of EVs and solar panels. So one sustainable alternative gives rise to another unsustainable alternative also. And we have to carefully look at the whole cycle to ensure that the whole cycle is sustainable. Because the ultimate objective is to protect human health and environment and to enable a circular economy, and not to create a hype in the market or to brag about in the market that, look, we are using EVs, we are using solar panels, we are using paper straws, and we are sustainable. Who must comply under these battery waste management rules? So all, again, the battery manufacturers, they have to comply with it. The new batteries also, and the refurbished batteries also, who are selling under their own brand or manufacturing under their own brand. The importers of battery or battery containing equipment, so even if any equipment contains any battery, they have to comply with these regulations. The brand owners, they have to, who sell batteries and they embed products under their own brand, they have to again register under these rules. So the EPR authorization is again with the Central Pollution Control Board, and this includes new and refurbished batteries also. So refurbishment that I was talking about, refurbished batteries is new area in the field of batteries. A lot of refurbishers have come into the economy now. So now what kind of batteries are covered under these EPR regulations? They say all kind of batteries are covered regardless of their chemistry. So lithium ion batteries, lead acid batteries, all kind of batteries are covered. Irrespective of their shape, like cylindrical or prismatic, all kinds of batteries are covered. Similarly, small cells, large packs, all are covered. Weight also does not matter, light and heavy both covered. Material composition, nickel and zinc also. So they are basically trying to give the parameters that all these kind of batteries are covered, and there is no exclusion. Another area of practice that is going to develop here, I would uh, give you an example. So all the cases for non-compliance of EPR, all the litigation for non-compliance of EPR that is undergoing now or has started. It is an evolving area naturally, but the litigation that has started is going to the National Green Tribunal, and the litigation can also be for the chemistry of battery, for whether arguing on that, irrespective of the chemistry of battery, we have to get registered. So like we had classification issues in customs, here also the classification issues, the chemistry of battery, all these can lead to litigation, and they are all taken up in the National Green Tribunal. So this is another emerging practice opportunity. Types, which all types have been mentioned. So automotive batteries, starter, lighter, lighting, ignition, SLI in case of vehicles. Electric vehicle batteries, example lithium ion batteries, which are used in the electric and hybrid vehicles. The batteries which are used in telecoms and energy storage and UPS industrial batteries, and the portable batteries. So all kinds of batteries are covered. They have given the types, but also they have used the words again and again that all types of batteries are covered irrespective of the following parameters. Now, why they have defined the types? Because there are different obligations for these types of batteries. That is the only purpose for defining the types of batteries. Now, EPR for battery waste. Again, why was it needed? To prevent hazardous pollution from battery disposal. We know that the disposal of batteries is a very hazardous thing. If not taken care of properly, it can be very hazardous. Then, rising battery waste from EVs and electronics. I've already discussed the scenario of EVs and the rising batteries along with it. when we recycle the battery, when we refurbish the battery, a lot of critical minerals like lithium, cobalt, lead, they can be recovered and they can be reused, and then they can be made a part of the circular economy instead of sending them to the dumps. It formalizes safe and compliant recycling, applies the polluter pay principle. Whoever is responsible for manufacturing it is also responsible for recovering the same. And this all supports and encourages sustainable energy. So, similarly, like plastics, we have minimum recycling obligations. And this table shows the amount of minimum recycled material, minimum recycled battery content that is to be used in the new batteries. So for portable batteries, it is 5% in 2027-28, and it increases up to 20 from 2030-31 onwards. Similarly, percentages are there for electric vehicle, automotive, and industrial batteries. Then those were the obligations to use the recycled battery. Now we have the obligations for recovery targets of the battery materials, the waste battery that is there. Out of that, how much should be recovered? So battery is a new field, new area, new category that has been covered in the API regulations, and that is why it is going slow. Plastic started in 2016 itself, and now they're already using recycled plastic. In case of battery, they are first targeting recovery till 26-27, and then from 27-28 onwards, they will start putting obligations to use the recycled battery. Now, as of now, they are focusing on recovery of the waste batteries. So again, with the type of battery like portable battery, it is 70%. It will increase to 90 by 2026-27. And for electric vehicles, it is 70 and goes up to 90%. Automotive, industrial are also there. So this was all about the EPR on battery. Now we'll go on to discuss EPR for waste tires. So tires is also a tire industry is also one of the major industries which contributes to a lot of waste. A lot of waste tires end up in landfills and dumps, and nothing is done about them. To regulate this industry, the waste that is generated out of the tire industry, EPR regulations came up, and again, producers of tires, they have to register. Manufacturers, importers, and brand owners, the recyclers of waste tires, retraders also have to register. So retraders of tires is a new category. Like we noticed, manufacturers, importers, and brand owners under the plastic rules and under the battery rules. But for tires, there is another category called as retraders who have to register. So who are retraders? Retreaders are the people in tire industry who take out the outer layer of the tire. If only the outer layer of tire has been damaged, they just replace the outer layer of the tire to make it look new and to uh, elongate the life of that tire. It saves a lot of cost. It saves the whole lot of exercise of producing, processing a new tire and delivering it. And it is also good for the circular economy. So only when the outer layer of tire is replaced and renewed and refurbished, it is called as retreading of the tires. Now, no entity can conduct business without registration. So, like the GST registration drives are carried out, the fake registrations are cancelled, and the people who are required to get registered but are not registered, they are issued notices for suspending their business or penalties for non-registration. Similarly, here also, now the authorities are, scanning the market. They are conducting drives. They are uh, publishing in all the newspapers and making people aware that they have to get registered. Otherwise, they will not be able to conduct their business. They also put obligation on the registered entities that they must not deal with unregistered producers or recyclers, so as to take the unregistered producers or recyclers out of the chain completely. So if you want to remain in the chain, if you want to be part of the tire industry, you have to get registered. Waste tire recycling targets under EPR. So what are the recycling targets for EPR? So this is how we have seen the plastic category, we have seen the battery category, and now we are discussing tires. So the obligations cannot be same for everything, based on the nature of product, based on the nature of their life cycle, based on the nature of waste generated out of them. The categories differ and the percentage of recycling and reuse differs. So EPR obligation for 2022-23 is 35% of the quantity of new manufactured tires imported in 2021. So in this tire category, we look at the base year for calculating this percentage of recycling is the Y minus 2 year. So for 2022-23, we will look at 2020-21. And it is governed by weight. The weight in kilograms or tons is taken into consideration for determining this kind of quantity that has to be recycled. EPR obligation for the year 23-24, that will rise, rose to 70%, and till 24-25 it was 100%. After that it will be Y minus 2. And for the new units that are established after 1st April 2022, they shall start with after 2 years. So Y minus 2 gives certain degree of flexibility to the new businesses that are there, that for at least 2 years they have the flexibility. For the first 2 years they don't have these obligations. The next category is the EPR for used oil. Now, EPR for used oil is again, what do they do? They are responsible for collection, recycling, and environmentally sound management of used oil. So, how do they do it? They re refine the used oil, or they convert it into some form of energy. If the oil has been contaminated and it cannot be used again, they convert that used oil into some form of energy. And EPR certificates is another mechanism which is there for all the categories. Now, what is used oil? Used oil is any oil that has been used and is no longer suitable. Any oil that you have used once, in, say, in the industrial processes, the engine oil is there, the gear oil is there, turbine oil is there. We have the sludges. So in all these categories, when the oil has been used and it is contaminated, it is no longer suitable for further use, then that falls under the definition of used oil. However, that used oil should not again be dumped as it is, and we should make every effort to even use that used oil again. Who is covered? Again, the producers, the collection agents, the used oil importers, and the recyclers. They all have to register with the CPCB. Now, EPR targets for used oil. What are the targets for them? Base oil and lubrication oil, extended producer responsibility obligation for 2024-25. In 2024-25 only, this category used oil came into force. EPR obligations for used oil came into force. So 5% of the base oil or lubrication oil sold or imported in 2022-23. Again, this is Y minus 2. So the oil that you used or imported, the oil that you sold or imported in 2 years back, 5% of that oil has to be recycled. This percentage goes on increasing from year to year, and by 2030 it will be 40%. And from 3031 onwards, it will be 50% of the base oil sold or imported. Again, for new units, there is certain degree of flexibility. They can start with the recycling obligations after 2 years from the financial year in which unit was established. EPR for e-waste is another category. So what is e-waste? Electronic and equipment waste, all the electrical and equipment waste that is there, that falls under e-waste category. They can be your laptops, they can be your mobile phones, any electronic gadgets that you have, they all fall into e-waste. Now, e-waste management rules, they came up in 2016. E-waste was also one of the initial categories. They are almost parallel with the plastic. And battery, used oil are the newer categories. So EPR requires, but plastic is the most regulated till now and more stringent, and laws are more stringent towards plastic. E-waste is, although it is old now, but it is still evolving. What all compliances are there? That we have to channelize the e-waste to approved dismantlers and recyclers. The recyclers for e-waste, we channelize the waste to them. We also build systems to take back, for collection centers, for drafting agreements with the authorized dismantlers and recyclers. So all these kind of compliances are there, and ultimately they lead to reduction of environmental impact and waste. One thing to note here is that the solar photovoltaic modules also fall under the category of e-waste. So this is how solar photovoltaic modules will also need to comply with EPR obligations now. Who must register? Again, manufacturer, producer, recycler, and refurbisher. So we saw refurbishers in case of batteries. Now refurbishers are there in case of electronic waste also. Now in e-waste, the recycling targets are by weight again. Electric and equipment. So 60% of the quantity of EEE placed in the market, whatever quantity of EEE, electrical and equipment e-waste that you place in the market, in year Y minus X, 60% of that you have to recycle. What is Y here? This year, 2023-24. So for 2023-24, how much will it be? 60% of Y minus X. Y is 2023-24, the amount of waste generated by weight in year Y, and X is the average life of that product. So you have to subtract the average life of product from Y, and then 60% of Y minus X will be your recycling target. So it will be in terms of weight, the weight of electronic waste. And starting from 2023-24 till 2028-29, it will increase up to 80%. And for recent commencement of operations, the new e-waste people, they recycling targets are so and so, 15% of the sales figure of financial year 21-22, and it increases from 15% to 20, and 20% of financial year 22-23, and from 25-26 onwards, it goes to 20% of sales figure of financial year 2 years back. From this year, it will set up to Y minus 2 again. Now, I was talking about litigation in case of EPR. So this is one case. Social Action for Forest and Environment as a trust, is an NGO basically, who is undertaking various awareness programs, various actual physical programs which contribute to the safety of environment. So they are undertaking afforestation projects, they're undertaking water management projects, they're undertaking energy footprint projects, they're undertaking carbon sequestration, which, projects which lead to less emission of carbon dioxide in the environment. They're undertaking such projects, social action for forest and environment. Now they challenged CPCB that all the programs that are being carried out by various other agencies, by various other EPR, by various other people who are falling under EPR obligations, they're not doing it in the correct sense. They're only doing it on the papers, and there is no effective enforcement by the CPCB. So this case went up to National Green Tribunal, and CPCB clarified that more stringent actions are being taken. The portal has been developed. The registration is now regulated, and all the people who are not registering it, registration drives have been carried out for them to help the people get registered through various government centers. And the people who are not registering their business is being declared illegal. Uh, Now, in our India itself, Goa has taken a very bold step to, return the used plastic for recycling. So, Goa is one of the first city in Asia. See, Goa prepares to become Asia's first state to implement a comprehensive statewide deposit refund system. Now, what is a deposit refund system? We will see it in the case of Goa, which has come up with a deposit refund system to encourage EPR practices. And there are other case studies also from other countries, which I will discuss to show you, to give you a glimpse of the deposit refund scheme and how does it contribute to the circular economy. So, what does Goa say? They have built a deposit refund scheme. They've built a website for it, and all these regulations will go live from April 2026. So 3 more months, and this deposit refund scheme in Goa will be live. So this is how new professional opportunities are coming up. It's an initiative by the government of Goa. What do? The consumers, they pay a small refundable deposit while buying products. So suppose you buy a can of Coca-Cola. So Goa government has put an obligation that the consumers will pay a small amount, say rupees 5 or 10, when they buy a can of Coca-Cola as a deposit, and this will be returned when the empty packaging is brought back. Now, how will they collect the empty packaging? Various collection centers are being set up, and this news is saying it is a clipping of November 25. So 300 collection points are being planned for this DRS rollout, deposit refund scheme rollout in Goa. So through the collection points, they are going to collect the empty packaging, and when the empty packaging reaches the producers again, then the deposit is going to be refunded. So it encourages recycling and prevents littering of the beaches and cities. Uh, Manufacturers have to register under the scheme, and they have to mark products with some unique codes. And this coding system will only ensure the return of deposit to the end customers. Now, how this coding system will work, how this scheme will come up, this all is yet to, the final draft for the scheme is yet to come up. It is yet to go live from April 2026. But we are discussing this because this is a new concept in India. It is already there in the West, but Goa has become the first state to come up with this in India, and in fact, I would say the whole Asia. So this is how, with citizens' participation, Goa will promote recycling. Now, this is one, we were talking about EPR certificates and the scam that have been there in the EPR industry. So EPR, this is a news clipping which shows that it is from July 2024, and the National Green Tribunal had issued notices to CPCB and Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change for recovery of 6 lakh fake EPR certificates. So 6 lakh fake EPR certificates, this is just the number of certificates, and the amount of certificates that were there. The amount that was there in these certificates was very huge, from plastic recycling companies, and these recycling companies based in Gujarat, Maharashtra, and Karnataka. So there was a planned scam where fake EPR certificates were generated and distributed in the market to the producers. The case was that Shakti Plastic Industries was there from Maharashtra, and it had generated fake and vastly inflated EPR certificates. They showed that they showed that they had processed plastic waste. However, in actual, they had not processed, because they did not have the setup or the scale of operations to match the amount of processed plastic waste that they were showing by way of certificates. They issued certificates for about 2,56,240 tons. However, they did not have such operations. They submitted false data and inflated certificates. And they were fined rupees 128.12 crores for violating the EPR norms. The case went to National Green Tribunal. So this is just one example of Shakti Plastics. Many other scams were there. EPR certificates we've already discussed in brief, but to give you the whole idea, because in EPR, the whole topic that is there for today, extended producer responsibility, I would say there are 3 broad categories, 3 practice areas हैं majorly EPR में जो हम undertake कर सकते हैं as professionals. One is waste management plan and strategy. Like we go to the doctor, like we fall ill. So prevention, we all say prevention is better than cure. तो हम वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट प्लान ही ऐसा बनाएं जिससे वेस्ट कम जनरेट हो. So those waste management strategies, crafting those waste management strategies, those waste management plans, submitting them to CPCB is one exercise, so that the EPR targets set by the pollution control boards, they are prevented from those targets are achieved easily, and the waste generation is prevented from the very inception. So waste management strategy is one practice area under EPR. Then all the compliances that are there, registering on the CPCB portal, submitting the returns, validating the data that is going in respect of EPR to the BRSR reports, the audits, the investigations, the scrutinies, all this, the compliance and the related audit part is another practice area, the second practice area I'm talking about. And third practice area in EPR is the certificate management. Generation of EPR certificates, their trading, and the stopping the fake certificates, the pricing mechanism, getting the certificates at a good price. All this comes under EPR certificate management. So I'm again repeating three areas of practice opportunities for us professionals in EPR. One is crafting a waste management strategy or plan to prevent the waste generation itself. Second is the EPR compliance and its related audits, validation, etc. Third is the EPR certificate management. So EPR certificates, what are they? They are the official compliance documents issued by CPCB. They prove that a recycler or refurbisher has processed waste according to regulations. We have placed a responsibility on producers to recover the waste, but is it the business of the producer to recover the waste? Do they have mechanisms to recover the waste? They were not doing it till now, so they do not have the means and capacity to do that. So what are they doing? They're tying up with various recycling organizations, various refurbishment organizations that have now come up in the economy, that have now come into picture, and they um, send the collected plastic to them, or they ask the recyclers only to get the plastic collected from the consumers or from collection centers, and Then they purchase the recycled plastic from them to use them in their manufacturing operations. So recyclers and refurbishers, they are very important part of the industry now, EPR industry. And for all the recycle uh, process, for all the recycling exercises that they take up, for that the certificates are issued. So every recycling exercise is now regulated, it is being tracked, and it is being registered at the CPCB portal. You cannot say that we have recycled this much amount, and if you do not register it, if you do not report it on the CPCB portal, if recyclers do not report it, then that is unaccounted and that will not become a part of the economy, and no certificates will be generated for that. So EPR certificates, what is the purpose of these certificates? They help the producers to meet the legal recycling targets. If, say, some producer is not able to meet its recycling targets, then they purchase these certificates only. EPR certificates are generated on the basis of the plastic recycled by the recyclers and refurbishers. So, in case some entity is not able to meet its obligations, then they purchase these certificates directly to set off their obligation, uh, which is short. So, to complete their shortfall, to set off their shortfall, they purchase the EPR certificates. Now that the certificates are regulated, they are accounted on the CPCB portal. The whole exercise is regulated and mechanized. And recently, last year only, the EPR ETP platform has been announced. It is a new national marketplace. So, like we have these stock exchanges in place, apart from the CPCB portal that is there already for EPR compliance purpose, we will have this new platform, EPR ETP. It is in process already. It is yet to go fully functional, but it is in process already. It is it is in the testing stage, and this platform will just like be the stock exchange where very active trading of the EPR certificates will be carried out. The price discovery, the price at which certificates are available, and it will all be according to the demand and supply of certificates, just like our stock market. So this we've already discussed the trading process. It will be through the EPR portal. And right now it is being managed through the CPCB portal only, but now there will be a separate new portal for that, specifically for trading and pricing. Then the role of chartered accountants again here comes in by maintaining the audit trail for certificate purchases, recycling activities, and ensuring accurate reporting in annual returns for the certificates. And then that is all the data related to certificates that goes properly into the BRSR reports also. So guidelines for EPR ETP portal first came up in January 7, 2025. That is exactly 1 year back from today. And this formal portal was planned to be introduced. Now, we have already discussed what all professional opportunities are available, what all role is there for us. But this is, I have, taken out especially 7, 8 areas with the deliverables, with the documents that we can, deliver to the customers, to the EPR value chain at each and every level across all the categories. We discussed the role of chartered accountants after we discussed the plastic category. But now that we have discussed all the categories, we have discussed the whole EPR rules that are in place in India as of now. I am again discussing the role of chartered accountants in the professional opportunities along with the deliverables that we can give to our clients. So first of all, the applicability comes in. We have already discussed about identification. So what all can be given to the clients in this case? Applicability notes can be given, just like we we give consultancy for whether GST registration is required or not, whether GST registration is required for a particular category or not, whether GST registration is required in a particular state or not. So all these complex um, permutations and combinations will come up in EPR also. That registration is required in which all states, applicability is coming in which all states, applicability is coming for which all categories, till when the recycling obligations have to be fulfilled. All these applicability notes can be given by us, just like the opinions that we give. Category wise EPR obligation summary that has to be given, and the rules that are in place, just like the GST notifications and circulars and amendments that come from time to time. We have the amendments coming up for EPR rules also from time to time, and the recycling obligations, they keep on changing from time to time. They are all in a phased manner, but they are all different for different categories we have seen. And if there is some producer operating in multiple categories, maintaining the data for that, maintaining the obligations for that, and along with the amendments, that all is a very typical exercise, and that can be managed by us. Registration and authorization, we have already discussed about the registration on CPCB and SPCB portals, the Central Pollution Control Board and State Pollution Control Board portals. However, again, here the brand-wise registration, the entity-wise registration, the amendment of registration, the renewal of registration, once the registration has been cancelled because of non-compliance, then renewal of that registration. Then there are certain requirements, like if the producer is operating in one state, then registration with only State Pollution Control Board is required. If the producer is operating in more than one state or union territory, then registration is required with both the State Pollution Control Board and the Central Pollution Control Board. So these are the kind of complexities that we will have to look at, the rules that we will have to look at for each category wise, and we will have to determine that where the registration is required, in which all states, and with which all portals. Then here, what we can give as a deliverable to the client, the EPR registration certificate, just like the GST registration certificate, that is very important. The EPR registration certificate plays a very important role at every stage of the compliance in future. And compliance tracker. So there are now many softwares in place for this whole EPR exercise. And just like we use taxation softwares, just like we use softwares for practice management for audit, we can use softwares for all this EPR work and give reports out of that to the client. EPR target calculation is another area, and it is a very quantitative work. Being good with numbers, being professionals. So, sales data validation, whatever sales have been made, the year-wise obligation calculation, the carry forward, the shortfall, all this has to be calculated and presented. So, maintaining the whole reconciliation sheets, the working papers for the obligation, how much has been achieved, how much is not achieved, what can be the penalties and fines for that. All this has to be maintained, and the annual and cumulative target charts can be maintained, that this much chart has been these much targets have been fulfilled in the first quarter. The target was the just like the budget and estimates that we prepare, the projections that are there, we can compare the actuals with the targets from quarter to quarter and on a cumulative and annual basis. Another area would be waste management and channel partner engagement. So, a lot of recyclers, processors, and refurbishers have entered the industry now. Due diligence of those vendors, because not every recycler, after these scams, we know that not every recycler is an authentic one. So, due diligence of vendors, identifying the vendors, agreements with them, SOPs with them, the documentation for waste flow with them, whose ownership will be there for the waste, at what point of time will the ownership transfer, in what form will it transfer, in raw form, in recycled form, or even after recycling, some of the waste that cannot be recycled will go to the landfill. So the ownership for that. So all the flow for and documentation for this, that has to be identified. And for this, we can give an approved vendor list. We can maintain vendor lists to suggest it to the uh, producers, and we can have a whole waste flow and traceability model in place with the help of softwares and all to suggest it to the clients. Then we have EPR credit procurement and credit management. What happens here? Identifying the credit requirements. If suppose there is a shortfall in meeting the targets, then what kind of credits are required? Credits might be required across multiple categories. You might have shortfall in one category and you might have surplus in the other category. So evaluating for which all categories credit is required, what price is going on. Is it better to go for EPR credit procurement, or going for waste management at the inception in a particular category? Category wise also we can decide that, okay, in this category we get the certificates at a good price, so it's better to focus on credits for this category and to focus on waste minimization from inception in another category for which, say, the credits are costlier. Then the credit validation and authenticity checks is a very big exercise now because of the fake credits circulating in the ecosystem. Credit utilization planning. How should you utilize the credits? To give you an idea of the complexity involved here in credit utilization, in tire industry, suppose the credits are bifurcated for the imported tires and the domestically produced ones. So, like in GST law, we have credit offset against IGST, SGST, and CGST. We have a set manner in which, and the order, the priority in which the three credits IGST, SGST, and CGST can be utilized against each other. Similarly, here we will have to look at utilization between imported and domestic in the order set according to the rules. So this is an idea. This is a glimpse of the complexity involved that I'm giving you. And for that, we can maintain a credit utilization register, just like we maintain the uh, ledgers in GST law, the cash ledger, the credit ledger, and the liability ledger. Similar kind of credit utilization registers we can maintain, the strategies we can suggest, and the cost optimization notes we can make. Documentation, evidence, and portal reporting. So, uploading returns on the CPCB portal, matching the invoices, recycler certificates and form submissions, and all the documentation that has to be maintained, the files that have to be maintained, the evidence, the vouching part that has to be maintained. All that we can play a role in that. EPR returns, keeping a track of all the file returns, whether they are being filed on time or not, sending alerts, making aware for the revised timelines and deadlines, and giving audit ready in case at any point of time an audit is conducted by CPCB for a producer, manufacturer of plastic or any other category. We have the evidences ready. Ongoing compliance monitoring and audit support. So we can, there can be analysis for the shortfalls, the targets, gaps we can build. Quarterly and annual compliance monitoring can be there. Notices, clarifications, penalties can be handled. So this is the litigation part. Once audits are audits are conducted by CPCB and any queries raised by them, any notices issued by them, answering those notices, representing for those notices, that all can be taken care of by us. Then we have strategic and ESG integration. So integrating all this EPR data with the BRSR reporting, so that there is a smooth flow of the CPR data into the BRSR reports. We don't have to, first every time, every year, we don't have to take out EPR data, build it for the BRSR report. The EPR data should be automatically arranged in such a way that it flows to the BRSR report automatically. Just like there are softwares for matching your GSTR 3B, GSTR 1, GSTR 2A, and the reconcile data flows into the GSTR 1, 3B, and GSTR 9, the annual returns 99C. Just like that, here also the EPR data flows into the BRSR report smoothly. For that, we can help the clients. We can integrate EPR with their ESG softwares, the EPR softwares with their ESG softwares. And for this, training and internal awareness sessions can be conducted. A lot of training opportunities in these areas are coming up. A lot of corporates are inviting professionals for training and capacity building programs. Even in the BRSR report, there are questions that how many trainings have you conducted for the staff for the board in the year for these areas. So in the BRSR report, you need to report the number of trainings conducted, and this is another opportunity, training and capacity building, where CAs can play a role. Deliverables, training material can be made available by us. We can give presentations to the management while capacity building, and ESG linked EPR narrative, the narratives for how we will integrate EPR with ESG, that we can deliver. Now, there are some case studies that I would like to discuss from the abroad. In Ecuador, this deposit return system had started. Remember, we talked about the deposit return system in Goa that is going to come up from April 2026. So this is there in Western countries since as long as old as 2011. And Ecuador had this national recycling policy which applied to PET plastic beverage bottles. So the plastic bottles that are of PET category, PET category, they were covered under this national recycling policy. And what happened? The consumers had to pay a deposit while they purchased these kind of bottles, and the bottle collection was done by the waste pickers. It was a part of the Ecuador's EPR framework. This deposit return system was a part of the Ecuador's EPR framework, and it aimed to reduce plastic pollution and increase recycling rates. So this is similar to what we discussed in case of Goa, the deposit return system, that at the time of purchase of plastic bottles, you give a certain amount of deposit and then it is refunded to you when the bottle is returned. And this whole exercise is carried out with the help of waste pickers. So in 2011, these waste pickers were not regulated. Now systems have been developed they are being developed in India through EPR mechanism and in the West also to regulate these waste pickers, to keep an account of the amount of waste that they have picked and the amount of waste they send to the collection centers for recycling. Earlier, there were challenges for social protection and formal recognition of waste pickers. Insufficient participation was there because of lack of governance. Now, all this is being regulated. The consumer, so this diagram will better explain the DRS. Consumer pays the deposit. The waste pickers, they collect the bottles, they are returned for refund, and the refund is received. Positive impacts we've already discussed, and it leads to reducing plastic pollution. It was introduced as early as 2011. There are challenges, but then they are being overcome now. In Pune, there is another example, a very good example, a very good voluntary initiative taken up by ITC Limited. So they call it Swachh in Pune. It is a waste picker owned cooperative which provides door to door waste collection services. Now, what happens with these waste pickers? All these waste pickers are now they are helped by ITC to enter the EPR system, to enter these uh, to enter and connect with the recyclers and collection centers, so that they can also be part of the revenue system, that they so that they also realize some revenue from the recycling centers and the collection centers for the waste that they have picked. So it is a good initiative on the part of ITC to help these waste pickers, and to help them organize themselves in the form of a cooperative, and to help them to generate a revenue stream for them from the formal recyclers and collection centers. ITC is helping such waste pickers. So waste pickers can play roles as service providers under EPR. They can be collectors, sorters, and aggregators. So ITC is formalizing all these things for the waste pickers in Pune. By this, they have a sense of job security. They get greater recognition and dignity of work, and uh, they put high quality waste segregation practices in place. Now, Oregon, another such system was there in case of Oregon, and they called it the bottle bill. It was similar to Ecuador's deposit return system. And look at the year, in as early as 1971, this deposit return system was established in the US. So it is similar to the Ecuador one and the Goa one, so I'm not discussing much. But this is how bottle drop centers were established as early as 1971 in some particular state, Oregon of US. Now, there's another case study which talks about the reverse logistics system. So in Brazil, what do they have? They have a national solid waste policy that came up in 2010 itself, and they call it reverse logistics mandate under the EPR itself. So producers and all, they are responsible for ensuring that the post consumer packaging is collected and recycled. So by way of different nomenclatures, by way of different policies, by way of different reverse logistics systems, they're all basically part of EPR now under in all the countries. And they started informally and with small regulations in the earlier times. Now they're all part of EPR. They also focused on waste picker cooperatives, that they act as key operational partners for collection, sorting, and baling and sale of recyclable packaging. Mandatory sectoral agreement were there between the government and packaging companies, and then national recycling targets were set. So these things were happening in Brazil as early as 2010. Households used to what was the flow of all this? Households used to segregate the waste. This used to be collected via municipal systems or waste pickers. Then they had established a financial flow so that these waste pickers get some revenue. They are encouraged for this exercise, and these funds were channeled to waste pickers through some cooperatives for equipment and capacity building. All the data was maintained for it, and there were governance systems for it with NGO support. Now we have talked about EPR in India. We have seen various case studies that were there in Ecuador, that were there in Oregon, in US, and Brazil. And now, if I talk about the EPR scenario in the global context, the whole scenario, if I summarize it and look at it. So already 60 to 65 countries are operating some or other EPR schemes in packaging or other categories. There is no single global ranking as such that says, okay, this country is so much advanced in EPR. But there are there are some indices given out by World Bank, by OECD, by various think tanks, and there are various sector reports which have started now ranking the countries that yes, this country's waste management system is the best. So, who are the leading ones? Germany is the one who is leading it in by way of Enforceable Packaging Act and a central registry mechanism. In France, also, it is good. They have an anti-waste law. In Japan, they have sectoral laws. In Sweden, Belgium, Netherlands, they have mature PRO models, the producer recycling organization models. They have strong recycling and they have strong infrastructure for all this. So these countries are more, they are leading the waste management practices. And good EPR law, if we talk about in the context of law, then a law, the EPR law of a country is said to be good if there is legal clarity, there are binding targets. If whenever a new law is there, obviously it has some teething issues. There are teething issues in the portal also. So the clearer the law is, the more legal clarity is there. There will be less litigation, there will be less confusion in the market, and there the targets will be easier to achieve. The timelines will be easier to achieve. And the ultimate purpose of reducing the waste, making it a part of the circular economy, will be achieved. And with the stringent penalties and fees, with a stringent monitoring mechanism, these all laws will be better enforced. So this is all from my side on EPR and its categories and the whole scenario of EPR that is there in the Indian context. I would end with a case study of Bisleri International, which says that Bisleri also seriously in last 2 years took up the challenge to. It said we are making a sustainable green promise because Bisleri had two challenges: the bottles that they are using for packaging, those are itself plastic bottles, and the second challenge is the water that they are using for filling in those bottles. So wherever the plant of Bisleri is located, there the groundwater table is going low. So to recharge that groundwater and to compensate for that, they have promised that they will restore say 300 dams, 500 dams in cities like Gujarat and Maharashtra where their plant is located. And for the plastic packaging, the bottles that they are using as plastic packaging, there also they are refining their processes. Um, they are taking steps to make that plastic a part of the circular economy by collaborating with recyclers and all. And they're also focusing on reducing the use of single-use plastic. They are looking at other categories of plastic, the biodegradable plastics that can be replaced for the manufacture of those bottles. So this Bisleri International case study was good, which is being discussed in the last year, 2025 itself. And I would like to end with this case study. I hope I have given perspective to all the professionals at what all opportunities are present in this area and how we can take up those opportunities. Any questions, any thing to be discussed, we can take them right now. If there are certain questions, I would request the moderators to take up the questions. And later also, if you feel to ask, if you feel to discuss any point, you can always connect offline at these. My contact details are here. And now I hand over to the moderators. If there are any questions, we can discuss them.
Thank you, Anushree. So we have a couple of questions that have come on the portal.
Right.
So the first question is existing APR application not yet cancelled by CPCB?
I'm sorry, is the existing EPR application?
Applications not yet cancelled by CPCB?
So actually, the question is not clear. But still, I would answer from whatever I can make out. The existing EPR registrations that are there, They are only cancelled if there is a default. If, say, any audit is being conducted by CPCB and they find that the registration is not proper, or there is a case of fake credits, or the obligations, the recycling obligations that are there are not being met, there is always a shortfall, then those registrations are cancelled.
Okay. The second question that we have is, what is the monitoring mechanism for PWP, whether they are properly recycled or not, or just they send the credit to the brand owners?
So the monitoring mechanism is the mechanism of audits by CPCB itself.
Mhm.
When the credit, all the recycling that is happening, EPR certificates are generated for that, and these EPR certificates are then purchased by the producers in case there is a shortfall. So the amount of waste generated, the amount of recycling that has happened, and the amount of certificates that have been purchased because of the shortfall in the recycling processes, the obligations that are there, the minimum percentage that we studied in case of, say, plastic or battery, that 20%, at least 20% of recycled plastic has to be used in the new operations. All of this data has to be reported in the EPR returns that have to be filed on the CPCB portal. And if the data in those returns is not proper, or there is some third party information, or a random scrutiny is conducted by CPCB, then we have to answer that. And this is the way CPCB is monitoring all this. And even after the audits, if there is some point or there is litigation, it moves to the National Green Tribunal.
Okay. We have one more question which says, how does EPR contribute to achieving net zero and circular economy objectives?
Okay. So circular economy we have talked about in the whole presentation. EPR, as I discussed in the very first slide, that till today, or till the plastic waste management rules came into force, the life cycle of the product would start from generation of product using the raw material to the consumption of the product by the consumer. With EPR coming into place, we are going beyond consumption. We are, after the consumption, when the product is discarded, we are making an effort to collect that discarded product, to recycle it, to send it to the collection centers. And after that recycling and reuse, whatever is left, that only goes to landfills. So the amount of waste that is recycled because of EPR obligations goes back into the economy by way of being used in the new production operations. This is how EPR is helping circular economy. And if we talk about net zero is a position where your carbon emissions are neutral. You achieve a neutral state, that it is neither positive, it is not negative. Carbon neutrality is achieved when you go completely carbon negative, that you're not emitting carbon at all. But net zero you achieve even if you are emitting a certain amount of carbon dioxide or other greenhouse gases, but you offset that using EPR certificates. So by way of EPR certificates, you are meeting the shortfall. Suppose you were required to, you have the target to reduce your carbon emissions from 100 to 80. However, you could reduce it only up to 90. So the shortfall of 10 is met by way of these EPR certificates. So this is how it is contributing to net zero. So net zero is basically a term for carbon emissions and the greenhouse gases. However, directly or indirectly, EPR and waste management systems will also contribute to net zero, because in the process of waste emission also the carbon dioxide emissions are there, and they are all together reported in the BRSR report, the carbon emissions and the waste management. So I would not say that EPR is directly contributing to net zero, but indirectly, yes, contributing. And circular economy, yes, we have already discussed that EPR directly contributes to circular economy.
Great. We have one more question with respect to how should the EPR credits be accounted under the applicable accounting standards? And along with that, what are the disclosures that are required under Schedule 3 of the Companies Act?
So as of now, in the Companies Act and the balance sheet, that is the financial statements that are made as per Companies Act, there no particular ESG requirements, ESG disclosures are required. However, there only the CSR obligations that are there by way of the Section 135 in Companies Act, there only CSR obligations are disclosed and they are required to be met. ESG reporting and EPR reporting is part of Business Responsibility and Sustainability Report, the BRSR report. That is an altogether different framework and that is applicable for the top 1,000 listed companies in India by market cap. That is governed by SEBI. It is not a part of Companies Act or company law. So the sustainability report, BRSR report, in that we have to report about the EPR.
Apart from that, what records and documentation should be separately maintained for EPR compliances?
So all the supporting documents for every stage, like for the waste management plan, whatever plan you are developing, that we will, deploy such procedures to reduce the waste at the first point. Then, even if the waste is we are not able to reduce the waste, but we plan to recycle the waste, we plan to reuse the waste. So all the mechanisms and strategies for that need to be documented. We need to connect with vendors who will enable us to manage such waste. So documents for all the due diligence of vendors, which vendor can be selected, which vendor is authentic, all these due diligence documents, the waste management plans and strategies, they have to be documented. Then if we talk about EPR compliance, there all the documents required for registration in the first place, like your PAN, your Aadhaar, the details of the business, the nature of the business. Just like we require personal details of directors and all in the GST registration. Similarly, these kind of details which are required for registration, the address proof, residence proof, business premises proof, all these kind of documents have to be maintained in respect of registration. Then for annual returns of EPR, we need to maintain all the data related to EPR targets, first of all, then the amount of targets that we have achieved, the shortfall that is there, and the shortfall that we have made through certificates. If we have purchased any certificates, we need to maintain that what amount of certificates we have purchased, through whom we have purchased, how many we have used, how many we are carrying forward. All these documents have to be maintained. And yeah, so this is all about compliance and certificates and then the waste management plan. These all documents we need to maintain.
Okay. And the last question, what risk arises from purchasing invalid or fake EPR certificates? And what can one do to identify what are the fake certificates that are being rotated in the economy?
So vendor due diligence is one such is a solution to all this. So you should select your vendor very carefully, and due diligence exercises are being carried out by many professionals for selecting the vendor for your recycling and using the recycled material obligations again. So only the recyclers who have been, for which due diligence is being carried out, you should go with them. Even if you do not go for the due diligence, you should, interact with others in the industry, and you should look at the setup of the recycling entities and all. Do they actually hold such capacities to generate the amount of recycling certificates that they're generating? Are they filing their returns regularly? This amount of due diligence at least should be done as a way of self-assessment itself while selecting the vendor.
We got one more question which says, who can be the auditors under the EPR rules?
So as of now, audit is being conducted by CPCB itself, and they also engage third-party auditors. But as of now, the people from National Institute of Technologies or from IITs or from engineering background, they are being, engaged by CPCB to conduct the audits. However, in response to those audits, whatever points are, whatever scrutiny points are, then given raised by the whatever questions or objections are raised by CPCB or the third party auditors. For that, we as professionals can respond to. We can help the industries and businessmen to respond to those investigations conducted by the CPCB.
Fair enough. We have one more question. It says, is APR applicable to, say, mining companies whose output is used as IP by the steel manufacturers, also steel product manufacturers? Also, is this applicable to plastic products such as syringe, chemical bottles used by the pharma health sector industries? And what about the IT hardware companies? While EPR will be applicable to plastic items largely, but will the products and the materials used by such as the chips, wiring, etc., will also have impact on that?
Okay, so like for syringes and all, so a thin line of clarification which is required here is that only the producers, manufacturers, or the brand owners, they are required to register under EPR. The other people in the chain, like the retailers or the traders, they are not required to register. So the syringes and all, if it is a producer of these materials, the syringes, the chemical bottles, yes, they are required to register. If they're brand owners of such bottles, they own a brand under which that plastic bottle is sold, the chemical bottle is sold, under which the syringe is sold, yes, they are required to register. But if it is a hospital purchasing that syringe, they are not required to get registered. If it is a medical shop who is just selling, who is just a trader for these syringes and chemical bottles, that medical shop is not required to get registered. For other than plastic, I think it was asked that whether for e-waste we are required to get registered.
E-waste, IT hardware companies.
Yeah, so for IT hardware companies, again, if you are the producer, manufacturer, refurbisher, recycler, then you are required to get registered, or you are a brand owner. Again, the dealers and traders, like if we go to purchase a laptop from the market, so that particular dealer or retailer is not required to get registered.
Fair. So we have these many questions for now. So we will like to conclude this session. So on behalf of the Sustainable Reporting Standard Boards of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, I extend my sincere gratitude to all the participants for joining today's informative webinar on extended producers' responsibility. Your presence and active participation contributed greatly to the success of this session. I would like to place on record our special appreciation to our distinguished speaker, CA Anushri Gupta, for delivering an insightful and engaging session. Her in-depth knowledge and practical perspectives on the concept, regulatory framework, and implementation aspects of the extended producer responsibility were extremely valuable and well received by the participants. The session effectively highlighted the significance of the extended producer's responsibility in promoting the sustainable practices, regulatory compliances, and responsible waste management. CA Anushri Gupta's clear explanations and professional insights helped the participants develop a better understanding of the subject and its practical implications. We also extend our heartfelt thanks to all the participants for the keen interest and thoughtful interactions and active engagement throughout the webinar. Your participation reflects a strong commitment towards sustainability and reporting environmental practices, and we look forward to your continuous association and to welcoming you to our future webinars and initiatives on sustainability, ESG, and emerging regulatory developments. Thank you once again for valuable time and participation.
Thank you, SRSB board. Thank you, ICI and Preeti ma'am and moderators and all the participants for patient listening of this webinar. Hope this helps you in your professional endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you.